You think all truck engines are built the same. More horsepower, more torque, more capability. That's what they show you. That's what every commercial sells you. But what they don't show you is how different these engines actually are, and why some trucks quietly cross 300,000 miles, while others start breaking down before 100,000. Same category, same purpose, completely different lifespan. Let's break it down, because once you understand this, you'll never look at truck engines the same way again. First, there are two main types of truck engines dominating the market today: gas engines and diesel engines. On paper, gas engines look like the obvious choice: cheaper to buy, quicker acceleration, lower upfront cost, more fun to drive. And that's exactly why most people choose them. But that's only half the story, because gas engines are built for short-term performance, not long-term punishment. They run at higher RPMs, they generate more heat, and they rely on lighter internal components, which means every time you push that engine, you're adding more stress, more friction, more wear, more fatigue over time. And that doesn't show up immediately. It shows up later, in repairs, in breakdowns, in performance loss. Now compare that to diesel engines. Diesel engines aren't flashy, they're not quick off the line, they're heavier, and they cost more up front. But internally, they're built like tanks: stronger engine blocks, heavier pistons, lower RPM operation, higher torque at lower stress levels, which means they don't have to work as hard to do the same job. And that's the key difference most people miss, because longevity isn't about power. It's about how hard the engine has to work to produce that power. That's why a well-maintained diesel engine can run for hundreds of thousands of miles. Not because it's better in every way, but because it's built for endurance. Now let's talk about modern turbocharged engines, because this is where things start to get complicated. A lot of new trucks, especially newer models, are moving towards smaller turbocharged engines. On the surface, it sounds like a perfect upgrade. More power from a smaller engine, better fuel economy, lower emissions. It feels like progress, but there's a hidden trade-off. Turbo engines don't just create power, they force it. They push compressed air into the engine, increase pressure, increase combustion intensity, which also means higher temperatures, more internal pressure, more stress on every single component, all the time. So while these engines feel powerful early on, they're constantly operating closer to their limits. And over time, that adds up. Seals wear out faster, turbo components degrade, cooling systems get pushed harder. And when something fails, it's not a small repair. It's expensive, sometimes very expensive. Now compare that to naturally aspirated engines. No turbo, no forced air, no extra pressure, just clean, controlled airflow. They may not feel as exciting, they may not win in a spec sheet comparison, but they're simpler, fewer parts that can fail, less heat, less stress. And over time, that simplicity becomes reliability. Now here's where most buyers make a mistake. They compare engines based on numbers: horsepower, torque, 0 to 100 times, fuel economy ratings, but they ignore the one thing that actually matters for a truck: longevity under stress. Because trucks don't live easy lives. They tow heavy loads, they haul weight, they operate in heat, in dust, in rough conditions. And not every engine handles that equally. Let's make this real. Imagine two trucks. One has a high output turbocharged engine, the other has a simpler, lower stress design. Day one, the turbo truck feels incredible. Quick acceleration, strong response, modern performance. It feels like the better machine. But fast forward 3 to 5 years, that's when reality shows up. More wear, more maintenance, more unexpected repairs, higher ownership cost. Meanwhile, the simpler engine, it's not exciting, but it's consistent. It starts every morning, handles load without drama, and keeps doing its job, year after year. Now here's the bigger shift happening in the industry. Manufacturers are moving toward smaller engines, more turbocharging, more efficiency-focused designs. And it's not random. It's driven by emission regulations, fuel economy targets, government pressure. So engines today are being designed to pass tests, not necessarily to last decades. And that creates a gap between what looks good on paper and what actually survives long-term use. More complexity, more electronics, more systems working together. And when one piece fails, it affects everything. That's the trade-off nobody talks about. Modern engines are optimized for performance metrics, not lifespan. So what should smart truck buyers actually do? They stop chasing numbers and they start asking better questions. How complex is this engine? How many moving parts are working together behind the scenes? How many systems does it rely on just to perform at its best? Because more complexity usually means more things that can go wrong. How hard is it working under normal conditions? Is it producing power easily? Or is it constantly being pushed to its limits just to keep up? Because an engine that's always under pressure won't age the same way as one that's running comfortably. How reliable are its components over time? Not just in the first year, but after years of real use, after heat, after load, after thousands of miles of stress, and maybe the most ignored question of all, how expensive is it to repair? Not just basic maintenance, but real-world failures. When something major goes wrong, does it cost hundreds or thousands? Because the truth is, ownership doesn't start at purchase. That's just the beginning. Because the best engine isn't the one that wins on paper. It's not the one with the highest numbers or the fastest acceleration. It's the one that keeps working when everything else starts to fail. It's the one that shows up every day without surprises. It's the one that handles stress without constantly needing attention. No drama, no constant repairs, no hidden problems waiting to surface. It's the one that stays dependable long after the excitement wears off, because performance impresses you early, but reliability proves itself over time. And once you understand that difference, you stop buying trucks based on hype. You stop getting distracted by marketing, by big numbers, by short-term performance, and you start choosing machines based on reality, based on how they actually perform when things aren't perfect. Because in the end, a truck isn't just about how it performs today. It's about how long it keeps performing when it actually matters.